partners here in our district to ensure that, everyone is protected and served in the best way that they see fit, and that we all have a voice, because voice at the table is important. I also want to report out about our first student advisory trustee meeting that we had. I am so excited about this group of students. The first meeting they were really engaged, asked a lot of really amazing questions for their first time out, hearing a whole lot of information, like welcome to student advisory, student trustee, and here get a really one-night session on LCAP, budget, what does it mean to be a board member, what does it mean to be a superintendent, after a full day of class, and still be really engaged for a 3-hour training session. So it was great. I'm excited for this school year. That's all I have.
Really?
It was good to be able to attend the back to school nights for Thornton and for Terra Nova, as well as go to the new family night at Jefferson, it was really just great to be able to finally get back onto campus and to see our parent communities and the students, and always fun to see the TN band kick off that back to school night at Terra Nova, and just to see the parents that we know and the friends and just all the different community members that are out there. Sometimes, you just never know who you're gonna run into, and it's always fun to see who actually is a parent in our district, as we've discovered. So anyway, it was good to be there, and looking forward to this month. So.
Great. Yes, I was, the Student Advisory Council was an amazing meeting. I'm really excited about this year's council. I'm always excited about the council, but there's so many great questions. I think we have a pretty diverse group, really excited. We do need a trustee from Thornton, however, so if we can try to find a way to get someone on our council from Thornton, that'd be great. Also acknowledging Labor Day. My father was an electrician for 40 years, never was in a union because he worked for the government. And if he had worked for a union, we probably would have seen him more, because basically they called him, he had to go. He couldn't say no. So there are times he was gone 9-10 months out of the year, come home, within 2 weeks they call him again, and if he wants to, he couldn't say no. So very thankful for our partnership with our union. And I'm looking forward to attending our back to school nights, seeing the teachers and staff, parents and students. It's going to be a really exciting year. Mr. Ochapinti, the board report?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's good to see that we're back to school. I know I'm seeing that in classrooms. It's refreshing to have students back for year 2 and to be able to start the new year on a different note than last year. Despite a lot of the, I think, challenges of starting this school year, obviously with so much going around public health and COVID ongoing, but also with respect to a lot of the violence that we've seen, not here just locally, but across the nation, in regards to gun violence. And of course, with respect to, even the weather today, with climate being what it is, and our students experiencing a different kind of growing up in the Bay Area with those challenges. So it's good to see that their energy and their resiliency is, I think, ready in some ways for a lot of these challenges, or not ready to engage those issues in a more proactive way. That said, I'm also excited for our district exploring and actually starting ethnic studies this year, and I think curriculum that's relevant and culturally competent, and in fact culturally engaging and embracing of all our cultures is not only refreshing, but a very overdue and very timely way to use education to address the issues in our world, in our community, all the same. And yeah, it's in general good to be part of that. I do want to reference as well that with respect to our last meeting, when we're talking about Westmore Park. For many in the community who have not noticed or have had a chance to visit Westmore Park, it no longer exists because it was bulldozed. Many people might be wondering why this happened so fast without adequate public input. Despite my best efforts and intentions, and many members of the community like yourself who may be watching, unfortunately that project was fast-tracked in tandem with the project here that's currently in proposal here at Center Mine Del Rey. It is controversial, but beyond that, it's just common sense that we should not be getting rid of our school property for profit, or for potential profit that hasn't even been secured. With respect to Labor Day and understanding that labor and community organizing fights for civil rights and human rights, I want to remind all of us as a district community, obviously families, our staff, and especially our students, that there are times when, in a public setting, we'll have meetings and address these issues, and they should be issues that should be addressed with all the energy and passion that they deserve. And so, with respect to that, I will just renew my commitment to raise my voice whenever those issues arise, to provide transparency, accountability, and responsibility for our community, even if no other public official will do that. As somebody who's born and raised in Daly City and in this school district, as the only member of this board who has taught here, worked here with the district as a volunteer, and served as a public official, you have my full commitment to do that as a trustee and as a member of the community. And I will commit to that moving forward regardless of the actions of other members of the school board, trustees, or other public officials who have not taken action to protect our public parks thus far. And so, in the public interest, in the interest of public education, as an educator, as a high school teacher, and as a member of this community, I will also encourage you to stay involved. Do not be discouraged by this process, and by no means is any of the decision-making over with respect to Center Mine Del Rey, where we should have all the things that our school district and the community center it provides currently exist and should exist for the future. So with that, I'll leave it there, and that's all I have for today.
All right. Superintendent report, Ms. Presta.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what was said about the back-to-school nights. It was so nice to be at Thornton and Terra Nova and actually feel like we were starting a real school year. They were both very well attended. The mood was very, upbeat and excited for the school year. So it was really, really nice, and I was really impressed with both staffs. And it was nice to just see how many parents were there. The parent night at Jefferson was also great. We got to have a little barbecue and hear information about Jefferson, so that was great. Student advisory this year, I think, I've only been superintendent for a couple of years now, but I'm very impressed with this group of students. I'm always impressed, but I already can tell that they're going to get a lot done this year, and I'm really happy to have them with us. I wanted to announce just a couple of things. Last week, Jefferson Principal John Harrigan went to Camp Lead with several of his staff members and about 70 of his students. They focused on empathy, communication, leadership, and they're planning Unity Days. So I'm really excited to see what comes of this. I think it was a few days really well spent. And then I also wanted to mention that Corrine Baca and John Harrigan and I met with the president of Skyline College today, along with some other folks from Skyline, regarding a venture that we're sort of hatching the idea right now. And the vision is that we partner with Skyline to kind of have Skyline in the community, really like a community school idea where they will offer Skyline classes at Jefferson eventually. That we may start with just the adult school classes because there will be no conflict with our adult school classes. And then also we will have, childcare, food, like Second Harvest Food Bank giveaway. One of the nights they'll have hot food, tutoring, and so make it so that adults in the community can come and take the classes and it works for their lives. So this is really, I'm excited. It was an idea that Skyline brought to us. And so we're gonna be really sort of piloting it. So we're in the phase of talking about it, figuring it out, and we're all very excited. We'll keep you posted. That's it for me.
Thank you. Now for our AFD Local 1481 report, Ms. Casey.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to say happy Labor Day, the day next. I was really excited about a friend of mine whose father organizes a Labor Day parade in Upper New York. And it was amazing. I saw footage of it, and I thought it would be great for maybe us to do something similar in order to bring the trades to our students and more awareness. So I will be talking to San Mateo Labor Council about some ideas about beefing up labor and unions. And, you know, a lot of discussion is going on across the country about joining unions. So it's very exciting. People see the value and they realize that our lives are better when we work labor and management together, but you have to have both. And it helps everyone get a better work condition. And in our case, our students benefit from it. And that's why we're here. So just wanted to mention that. We have work to do, always and forever, and I'm thankful to be working with the people on both sides. So thank you all.
Thank you. Do we have a COVID-19 response update?
Yes, we do. Austin Warden is going to provide it
All
for
right,
us.
Mr. Warden.
So as COVID cases are reported to the district, those are immediately placed on the district dashboard. We are one of a few school districts continuing to update the dashboard, which is, I think, a positive for us. So as those are reported to us, they are added with currently 59 cases, both students and staff for this school year on the dashboard. Also, we are sending out bi-weekly exposure notices to the schools from that week. So on Tuesday and Thursday evenings around 5:30, if a student or staff member from that site, there was a case on campus, the entire student and guardian community receives that exposure notice during that evening. And that's it to report for now.
Thank you. Now on to our consent agenda.
Move to approve consent?
Second?
Mr. Ochapinti, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I want to pull a couple items, but I'll wait till we get to that.
In consent?
Consent, yeah.
You have to pull them now before we approve it.
So I'll be pulling 6E1 and 6E2.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
6E1 and 6E2.
You said B1?
E,
E.
yes.
E1 and E2?
6E1 and 6E2.
So
6E1,
E1,
6E2.
1,
6E1 and
6E1, 1, and E1, 2.
6E1, 1, and 6E1, 2.
So did you notify Ms. Presta you were going to pull these?
No, I
Did
not
you
know if
ask
I'm
any
expressing that I was gonna
questions?
pull these.
I'm
simply request-
sorry?
No, these are simply being pulled from the consent agenda item.
Right, and I've said this many times before, that we are, by agreement in our governance handbook, we should try to notify me or Ms. Presta if you're going to be pulling items, if you have any questions, and that will hopefully, avoid what we had last time, which is the staff was not ready to answer your questions. So if you want to pull those, we will, but I'm going to reiterate again to the entire board to please heed what we've decided in our governance handbook. If you have questions on any item, you should be asking the superintendent by noon, the Monday before the meeting, or notify, ask any questions you have about an item so we can get clarification. Now, the questions you have on these items, you want to pull them because you don't understand them?
Why would I not understand them?
That's what I'm trying to understand.
I'm trying to understand if I don't understand them.
You don't understand them?
No,
Is
I
that
do
the
understand them.
question?
That's why I have questions.
Okay, we'll go ahead and pull it. I
Yes,
can't
thank you.
stop you.
Yeah, let's do that.
I just said we were. Okay. So with those consent agenda items pulled, motion to approve?
There was actually already a motion and a second
that's right,
on the
okay.
original thing before it was, before the items were pulled, actually.
Okay.
So we should,
Well, with those items pulled,
I'm not amending my motion.
okay.
Point of clarification, in a board meeting, Trustee Lee, if there's a request to pull a consent agenda item, it does not require approval. It's simply a part of the public process.
Well, actually, I had made the motion before you pulled the items, and there was a second on it, so we should actually take a vote on the items prior to those items, on the consent agenda prior to those items being pulled.
Excuse me, is there a reason why you are
Okay,
avoiding
you
pulling
know
this
what?
item?
It's my turn to talk here.
Please,
So
President Tejada, take a
I
seat.
acknowledged him. So we did have a motion, we had a second, but he had had his hand raised. I saw it in the corner of my eye, and that's why I acknowledged him, even though there was a motion and a second.
So moved with those amendments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We get a roll call vote?
Do we need a roll call vote on
I
that?
did not hear
No.
Trustee Lee. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that.
Don't need a roll call vote. Okay, do we have public comment?
I don't have any cards.
Okay. Now on to our action items. So we'll go back to those two items that Mr. Ochapenti requested be pulled. So, Mr. Ochapenti, what is your question on the service and consultant contract approval for BHRS one-time funding?
Yeah, it's good to see that we have one-time funding coming into the Daly City Youth Health Center, serving our district, and in the interest of, it appears, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are bonuses. So I think it's good that we are providing better pay for our staff here in the district. My first question would be, since this is one-time funding, how we'll be able to sustain some of this, or if there's any plan to be able to raise the pay of our employees at the Daly City Youth Health Center, and if there's any background as to how this funding, if renewed, will be spent in the future.
Okay, I think,
This is item 6E1.
I see it.
Yeah.
So that would be Ms. Van Raphorst?
That's correct. Yes. So the items are listed as stipends. They're really compensation for training that people will be receiving. Many of these employees are represented by the union, and so this will have to be negotiated. This is like a funding application that was accepted by BHRS, but the represented employees will not receive the stipends until after we do a negotiation session. And it is not, it's not clear that these stipends would need to continue after the training is done. So I think that.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, I know in the listing on page of the document, it is on page, the last one is, it's actually not listed here. But in the last, in the detail, there are the stipends, and then there are the items listed as staff retention bonuses. And so, just to be clear, all of these are negotiated by a union.
They will need to be negotiated before they can be paid to any represented employee. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that.
So move to call the question.
Second.
Okay, you called the question, which means that all discussion on this item will stop. If I have to show of hands, who would like to, by show of hands, who would like to stop discussion on this question? So by show of hands, 4-0, we're now going to.
4 to 1.
4 to 1, we will
Yeah.
now go ahead and There's a motion to,
Move to approve the contract between San Mateo County Behavioral Health.
Second.
Yes.
is there a second?
Sergeant Pinty.
Mr. Ochapinti seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now on to the addendum to the lease agreement with Simon Yang, DBA Christ Central Presbyterian. Mr. Ochapinti, your question?
Yeah, so it's good to see that we still have community organizations leasing out our space. This obviously helps the community and our district. One thing I noted about the lease addendum is that this is being, the rent is being assessed per month and not per square foot. Given that there have been some changes in the leasing here at San Mario Del Rey and across the district, my question would be, was there any particular reason why this is different in terms of how we're pricing the lease? Or is this more the standard, like why the change, I guess, or why the difference?
Ms. Renner-Aphorst?
Thank you. We asked this tenant to change rooms because we wanted to use the room they were currently in to help support our adult transition program. And that's why we offered them a flat rate.
Okay.
Move to
Thank-
call the question.
Second.
Okay, by show of hands, who would like to end discussion on this item? All right. Let it show that by a vote of 4-1, discussion on this item has ended, and we'll get a motion.
Move to approve the lease between us and Simon Yang, DBA Christ Central Presbyterian.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Again, please, if you have questions before the meeting on items, ask them ahead of time. We can avoid this.
Respectfully, President Tejada, questions are part of our job, so I
Yes,
trust the professionalism of our
questions.
district.
Read
and I
our
trust them to
governance
answer-
handbook.
I trust them to answer simple
Read
questions,
our,
which they have.
read
very
our
well.
governance handbook,
Thank you,
Mr.
President
Ochapinti,
Tejada.
that's it.
Thank you. That's public policy. Thank you.
I think just so we don't yell over each other, I think this is only in regards to the consent agenda.
Yeah,
And that we
Right.
all signed the governance handbook saying that for consent agenda items, if we did have questions on just those specific items, that we would send those, alert the superintendent and the board president, and send those questions in advance. We all signed it, and so I think we should all live up to the agreement that we made, and by signing that, and just follow that rule.
Thank you, Trustee Salahudin, for that comment. I will say this, that by law, we can and should be pulling consent agenda items regardless of that, and I will do my best to fulfill that in advance and asking questions. I will also add that any item that's $100,000 or over is reasonably included as a different part of the agenda in some practice of agenda, setting for school districts. And so when I see an item that does list $100,000 for our health center, that it's important to discuss even if it's a minor question, which I have full faith in our district staff to answer on hand, which they have, and have, for the most part, done so faithfully the entire time I've been on this board. So that said, thank you, and
Okay.
I'm ready to move on to the next item.
so I'm just going to say that in our governance handbook, it states that members are encouraged to ask questions regarding consent items in advance. Pulling items from consent should be the exception rather the rule. And with that, I am going to move us on to our action items. And the first item is the public hearing for the adoption of resolution number 2022-23/1, the Pupil Textbook and Instructional Materials Incentive Act. Ms. Baca.
President Tejada, good evening, members of the board. Before you is a resolution stating that our students have sufficient materials and instructional materials aligned with state content standards. It is recommended that the board conduct a public hearing, then adopt the resolution 22-2023-1 Pupil Textbook and Instructional Materials Incentive Act.
All right, thank you. Public hearing is now open. Seeing no comments, hearing is closed. Now for the approval of the 2022-23 instructional materials.
So moved.
Second.
I think Ms. Baca, you wanted to,
Adopt the resolution also?
it was a public hearing.
And
Now she's
Now,
adopting.
now we're adopting.
Now
that.
we're adopting it. Yeah.
So I think it was Ms. Dr. Pinty on the second on this resolution.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now on to student services.
Actually, we have the item 2, approval of the instructional material. Of the instructional materials. We did the resolution
So we did the hearing,
with the
the
resolution.
adoption, with the resolution.
Right.
Okay.
So now it's instructional materials.
Okay, so conduct and adopt. All
Yes.
right. So now for the approval of the 2022-23 instructional materials, Ms. Baca.
for you is the textbook adoption list for this school year. 3 new textbooks were adopted. One of them is Auténtico for Spanish 1, 2, and 3, and also English novels named The Girl with the Louding Voice and Internment. And with this, it is recommended that the board approve this list of instructional materials for the 22-23 school year.
All right. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now for the service and consultant contract approval for Syntegics for safety infrastructure. Ms. Basuino?
Good evening. Syntegics will provide JUHSD with infrastructure and technology that will significantly improve safety on all our campuses. This system will ensure that administration and campus supervisors will be able to respond to emergencies more quickly and will allow staff to receive vital information within seconds. So to give you an idea of how it works, Syntegics will add signaling devices to every classroom, every hallway, and throughout the campus, including outside. These devices are about the size of a smoke detector and serve multiple purposes. First, they have color strobe lights that we will designate colors for each type of emergency, which will align with our San Mateo County emergency protocols, right, the Big Five. Second, they create an independent wireless network that will be able to pinpoint the location of any staff member needing assistance. Each staff member will get a badge and training on how to call for help in case of a medical or other type of emergency. They will also get training on how to use the badge to alert everyone to an active shooter. God forbid that ever happens. Lastly, the system will allow administration to send alert messages to all school devices at a flip of a switch. For instance, if there's a shelter in place, a message can pop up on all the school devices explaining the reason, like if there's a nearby chemical spill, so that the staff isn't left wondering or needing to wait for an email. We have researched other safety tools, and Syntegics is the best for our needs. There are really no other tools that we find as comprehensive, and the cost is very reasonable, at under $50,000 per year, which is less than a cost of a single campus supervisor. With all that in mind, we recommend approving this with this contract with Syntegics.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Second. So moved. We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Human Resources, application for variable term waiver for Katarina Glustein. Ms. Lujan?
Good evening, everyone. The application before you is a waiver to waive a credential requirement for a new teacher that we intend to bring on for adult school. It's a half-time English ESL teacher who will be teaching English as a second language. And she comes highly recommended. Her bachelor's degree is wonderful, and she brings a lot of experience. She's worked at the community college level, just not at the high school level, so she intends to pursue a credential.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now on to business services. The approval of unaudited actuals for fiscal year 21-22. Ms. Van Rathhorst.
Good evening, President Tejada. Good evening, everyone. In accordance with AB 1200 and Ed Code 42100, each year, the board must approve an annual statement of all income and expenditures for the district for the preceding year. As you can see from the reports, we have finished the 21-22 school year in the black with a reserve that is above the minimum that is required and a little higher than was projected. We had a little better than expected tax revenue, and we also saw a decrease in expected special education expenditures. I think this is primarily due to a reduction in our out-of-district placements. We'll have more details about the financial position when we provide our first interim report in December. We'll also be discussing finances as part of negotiations in closed session starting in October. So after your approval of this financial statement, the reports will be reviewed by the San Mateo County Office of Ed and then sent to the state superintendent. They'll also be forwarded to our auditors, and the auditors will provide the board with their report this winter. With that, I recommend that the board approve our preliminary financial statements for the 21-22 fiscal year.
A motion approved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-2023/2, adopting the GAN limit. Ms. Van Raphorst.
Thank you again, President Tejada. The California Constitution places limits on the growth of expenditures for publicly funded programs, and this is commonly known as GAN limits. It requires that each year we must formally adopt our appropriations limit for the fiscal year. The documentation that supports this adoption has been made available to the public, and now it comes to you as a recommendation to approve the resolution.
We have a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of future agenda items.
I have one, just because hearing Mr. Bashir's at back to school night, we haven't had him present to the board in a little while about adult school programs, and especially since he's the principal of all programs, I would like to hear from him special education, transition, et cetera.
Right, you're right. Adult school, we will note that. Thank you. And I noted on our governance calendar that we have a school board meeting scheduled for October 4th, but that falls within Yom Kippur, so I'd like for us to find another date. I do want to have 2 board meetings in that month.
Yes, we looked at the calendar. Now I'm going to look to Chelsea to my right. Do you remember the date? Did we say the week before looked like a good date, Chelsea? We looked at the calendar today. If possible, I'd love to look at it now while everybody's sitting here.
Okay.
So that we can come up with one that matches.
It would be back-to-back.
Pardon me?
It would be back-to-back meetings.
Okay. So the Yom Kippur is which date, Rosie?
October 4th.
October 4th. All right. So would you like to do the 11th or the 25th? Either of
11th.
those dates?
How does that look for people?
Either one of those dates work for me.
11th, they either works for me.
Second, I'm checking the third calendar.
Did you say you're checking a third calendar?
Yeah.
Are we just moving the regular board meeting to another date?
Yeah, so
Yes.
we have a regular board meeting on the 18th.
Okay.
Right.
And we're going to skip the 4th. Oh, the other idea was to just have it, this was actually what we talked about today, just have it on the 5th, so you have 2 weeks gap.
Okay.
Change the day of the week rather than the week.
Yes, that works for me.
The 5th
Then
works
you've
so
got
well.
it 2 weeks.
October
It's better
5th.
for us
Yes.
to get our work done.
Yes, yeah.
I'm okay with
October
October 5th.
I'll make it work.
Okay.
Okay.
October 5th.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
I think we have to put this on for action next meeting.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
We will.
Okay, October 5th to amend board meeting. All right. Okay, nothing else. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yay. Meeting